I've had this Kyosho Turbo Raider since I was 14 years old, and as a teen I could only have dreamt of this thing going 40 plus miles an hour. It's actually likely the fastest Kyosho Raider in the world. Not that that's a very high bar, not that many people have tried to speed run their Kyosho Raiders, but this thing is an absolute ripper for what it is. In the past it's gone over 61 miles an hour, and I think it's went 45 miles an hour on 2S. Now the stock gearing in this car is quite short. It had a 14 tooth pinion and a 36 tooth idle gear, and I decided to make the gearing as tall as possible, and there's an optional 32 tooth idle gear that you can put in here along with an 18 tooth pinion gear, which makes the gearing much taller. Linked in the video description on videos where I did that before, and other gearing modifications and combinations that you can utilize for this car. At any rate, you probably want to be brushless to support those modifications, and I recommend a mild brushless setup, at least in regards to the torque. So instead of utilizing a true 540 motor, this F540 motor is actually the internals are the size of a 380 motor, so the torque's limited, plus I have the punch turned all the way down. But it's a 4370 kV motor, so it spins quick, making this car pretty quick. Now, I pretty much had maxed things out, but I wanted to go even faster, and someone on the Facebook group for Turbo Raiders, or Raiders in general, they produced a 3D printed idle gear that's smaller. This is a 30 tooth idle gear, and by going to a smaller idle gear, it'll allow me to go to a bigger pinion gear. So I'm going to go ahead and try to install these in the Raider. I went down 2 teeth now on the idle gear, which should allow me to go up 2 teeth on the pinion gear. I'm going to try this Arma 0.8 mod pinion gear, and the combination of this should allow the car probably to get up to the high 40 mile an hour range on 2S, and possibly around 65 miles an hour on 3S, if I could keep the car on the road. So I'll stop talking, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to install these gears in the Kyosho Raider, and it's the same process for swapping any idle gear and pinion gear change in here. But today we're going to put these custom gears in here and see if I can get this thing to go even quicker. Stay tuned. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is remove a bunch of screws. We got to do this one, these 4 screws here as well, and that should allow us to slide off the top of the gear case here. Alright, now this should go ahead and slide forward. And there we go. So, in here, again, I'm currently running an 18 tooth pinion gear. This is the optional 32 tooth idle gear. You need the smaller idle gear to run the bigger pinion gear, otherwise there's not space. Also, when you go much bigger than the 14 tooth stock pinion gear, you can't slide it in on the motor from the side. You have to install it from the top. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the side panel now here, so I can remove the idle gear, and so that I can remove the screws to pull the motor out. Alright, there we go, and this just pops right off here. And then there's 2 screws in here to pull the motor out. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't need to pull the motor out, because I'm going to put the new pinion gear in from the top. So all I have to do is align the grub screw there to the top, and then I can grab a Allen key and pull off the 18 tooth pinion gear. right, there we go. And then to remove the idle gear, there is a pin that goes through here. So what I'm going to do is push this pin through. I could probably do that just using this Allen key. So see that right there? You just give it a little push, pull the pin out, and then pull the idle gear straight up. And we're going to reuse the 2 bearings. If you're going for high speed, you definitely want bearings in the gearbox. With the Turbo-Rater, they came in their stock, but the basic Rater, I think most of the models, or maybe all of them, came without bearings. It just had bushings in there. So here's a comparison of the optional 32 tooth idle gear, and here's the 3D printed one that is a 30 tooth, and hopefully it holds up. We'll see. I'll put a link in the description where I got this, and I'll put a link to the files for this gear. And it was relatively inexpensive. I want to say it was like $10 shipped. I was really shocked. And I'll put information in on the type of plastic used and the finish used as well. Now let's see if these bearings fit in here properly. A little snug, but I think we're good. Go to the other side. And that one's a little loose. But I think we'll be okay. All right, I just took a piece of sandpaper and ran it along the inside edge of this gear, and it seats in here nicely now. The other side will likely still be a little loose, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. So there we go. And this goes in this way. We clean this pin off. Now I've been running my gears dry. I only do speed runs with this car for the most part. I'm not running it for real long periods of time, and even if I was, I'm not sure it would matter. They seem happy enough dry. I run the gears in my Traxxas Bandit dry as well, just to reduce friction and to minimize the amount of dirt and grit that'll get down in the gearbox. So you may or may not want to run them dry. That's totally up to you, but that's how I've been running mine for the past quite some time now. So we're just going to go ahead and slide that in there. Seems to mesh well. And now I'm going to see if this 0.8 mod 22 Arma pinion gear will work in here. This old one here was a Red Cat, but they seem like they, I guess they mesh up good. So let's see what happens. Again, I'm going to have to do this from the top. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this on and then align it with the gears. I should really put some Loctite on here, but I haven't. But let me just test fit this. There we go. Fits like a glove. I'm going to put a little Loctite in there and then button this thing back up. There we go. Screw that bad boy back in there a little bit. Line it up. And cinch it down real good. Alright, so that should do the trick. I'm just going to go ahead and button this back up. You'll notice the gearbox is a little flimsy with the cover off, but it holds it in place better once it's back on there so that this doesn't flex so much. Also, I recommend putting a piece of electrical tape over the pin here. It covers up that weird hole that's in there that seems to serve no purpose, but also will keep the pin in place. Clean this off a little bit. And then put my piece of electrical tape over here. Now the door cover will also kind of hold that pin in place, but just weird how it doesn't really fit that well. There we go. And go ahead and slide this back in place. And then just simply put the screws back in. And there we go. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I respond to all questions I get. And one of the ones I'll probably get is, Brian, I hear the Raider's gearbox is really weak. This seems like a really bad idea. Why did you go brushless? It's a vintage car, the parts are hard to find. While most of that's true, in my experience, again, this is a Surpass Hobby combo, F540, so the torque's already not that crazy. The punch is turned down to soft. The Surpass Hobby ESC gives you 4 options. The one thing I really do not like about this ESC, however, is that the brake force is not adjustable enough and the brakes are too strong, even at 25%. So I may look to put a Hobby Wing ESC in here later, but as long as you're real careful with the brakes at high speed, it's manageable. So as far as the gears in here, I have not had any problems. It seems the differential tends to be the weakest part of the gearbox. I did make a custom ball diff, link in the video description. It's pretty involved, takes some custom gears and some Tamiya parts, but it's doable. However, it's not really good for on-road use at high speed. I found it would lock the rear end up when I let off the throttle, causing the car to oversteer and spin out. But off-road, it works really well. So that's something you can keep in mind, but I just don't do anything stupid with the car. It does have more torque than any brushed motor I've run in it, even with the punch turned down. However, I ease into the throttle. I don't just mash the full throttle. So I get going, 5, 10, 15 miles an hour as I ease into it. Then I go to full throttle. On 3S, I'm real careful. I don't run 3S very often in here. It's probably not a good idea to do it for any length of time, but to do a couple speed runs, so far so good. Your mileage may vary. So hopefully I have the handling issues sorted out. Last time out here, I couldn't get the thing past 30, 35 miles an hour with it going all wacky. It seems these tires I put on here that I had been running on my Ultima Pro came unglued, and I hope that's why the car was having the terrible handling issues it was. So with a little bit of luck, later on today, I'm gonna get this thing out. I guess the Loctite won't be dry, but I got some time this afternoon when I can run it. And we'll do a little 2S rip, and I'm hoping to get it up close to 45. No, actually faster than that. I'm hoping to get it up in the higher 40 mile an hour range on 2S. And then I might do 3S. I'm a little nervous because the thing likes to go airborne. It's a very light car, and other than bragging rights, 3S is not very practical, but we'll see. To be continued. Oh, and please give me a like and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers and have about 300 more to go. Take care.